So I wrestled with our blast cabinet. Um, just was giving me all kinds of problems, and so it took me way longer than it should have. But I got everything, the pump all blasted. This thing actually had I don't know if it's what they were doing previous to the fiberglass transom housings, but this one is aluminum. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but and like I said, it had the pump had a diverter already on it. It's an older diverter. It's quite a bit different than the new one I just got for the blue boat. It's just kind of a little bit cruder, I guess. It doesn't have all of the Teflon seals and everything in between, where it pivots. But I mean, for this application, it should be perfect. I did really want to have trim, so I can trim it down and get the boat on plane quickly and keep it on plane at a lower speed. So I kind of lucked out that I was able to find a pump that already had a diverter on it. And this stupid clean out, the weed clean out. I think I mentioned it in a previous video, but it was glued into the suction housing, and then it was sanded smooth in here. Like somebody thought he was going to pick up a little bit of speed by gluing the clean out into the. I don't know. I think it's kind of stupid, but I don't know if that's a thing people used to do or what. But so that was kind of a nightmare getting this thing out of the suction housing. I had to go inside of it with a torch, heat it up until it would melt all of the glue out of the inside here. I got it out in one piece. It's a little bit different than the newer pump that's on the blue boat too. They're both 12 JCs, but there's quite a bit of differences with a lot of these parts. Like this is kind of cool that it's got Berkeley jet drive cast right into it. The blue boat's pump doesn't have that. But everything cleaned up pretty good. I'm not going to get carried away with this thing and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Like it's going to get just run through, a bunch of trash run through it. So I mean, the only reason I really blasted it is because it has so many layers of paint on it. There's 4 or 5 layers of paint on some spots. So especially the stuff outside the transom, like the transom housing and the bowl and all this stuff was just painted over and over and over. So I think I'm going to paint it black, actually. I don't know. I think it'll look kind of neat. But the bushing in the bowl felt fine. The bearing, the input bearing on the suction housing felt fine. The impeller looks good. So I'm not going to go through, take this thing apart right now. This pump is in better shape than the pump in the other boat, and that one works perfectly fine still. So I'm just gonna take the duct tape off of it, put regular painter's tape on it, and just spray these with some kind of an epoxy black, a gloss black urethane or something like that can be easily touched up. So this part of the casting is a little bit different on this pump too. It looks a lot different on the newer 12 JC that's in the other one. It one's got like a big sweeping Berkeley on the side of it. So I think I found this boat was a 73. I'm maybe think 73, 74. So that's kind of should be the vintage of this pump. It's got an A impeller, which is probably perfectly fine for my application. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the diverter cable. The other boat, I think I drilled through right here, and this came out, the reverse came out in its regular location, but I'm debating on plugging this and having both of them come out the transom. because I want to have a swim deck. Or it's not really a swim deck, more or less just so my gimpy ass can get out of the water back up into the boat. A platform back here. It may have to be cut out for the cables coming up. I know there was some company that sold some kit where you could take a regular JC pump and you could buy this little kit that would add some linkage and stuff like that, and it would make it so the cables didn't have to go up and come down to the nozzles. So you could have a deck that went right even across here, and you wouldn't have to have holes for your cables to come and looping back down. But I haven't been able to find that kit. I found that years ago, and I don't know where it is or if the company even makes it anymore. So I gotta get the all of these, the bushings and all of the pivots, you know, here and here, they were all junk. Every one of them was junk. So I will have to get those, and then I'll have to get the gaskets, the bowl gasket, and the suction housing to intake gasket. I'll have to put on it too. I mean, the intake, I don't even know what to think of yet. It's the thing I've been thinking about more than anything. Because it's probably one of the most critical steps in this process. This needs to be not only it needs to be a very fluid transition into the hull, but it's also got to be extremely strong. So I've already broken one of these, and I've split one of those right in half. This thing is pretty tough. The suction housings are kind of weak, actually. The castings aren't very good on Berkeley's. They're not really made to do what I'm doing. You know, the low pressure axial flow like Hamilton's and Scott's and stuff like that are a lot better suited for this, but they're really expensive. So I just need to what this is mounted to has got to be pretty substantial. Like, you know, I mentioned in a previous video, I'm going to have flat bar on the sides here. What I'm going to do up here, I don't know, because the flange follows the contour of the boat really well, but not up here, how this bulges up a little bit. And you can see there's actually an insert in this casting. You can't hardly see the seam anymore, but here you can kind of see it. So they obviously changed these inserts in these castings to accommodate for different hulls, and this doesn't follow the boat very well. It goes down too far, so this whole section may have to get ground down in order to meet the hull better, and it may be the same at the back. But I'd like, you know, somehow I got to take up this void, you know what I mean, in the structure that's welded into the boat in the front and the back. Sides are easy. They're just laying the flat bar in and welding it down, but the front and the back have to be just as well supported. So, but yeah, this may have to get ground down some too, because I think this comes down about as far as this nose piece up here. You know, and then everything has got to be really smooth into the hull. Everything's got to be a really nice transition. And the benefit I got is I'm using a V-hull, which are about the least prone to cavitation. So, you know, and like I said, this thing did have those wings on it. The Berkeley intakes that always have these wings that come up or down a few inches. And I've cut those off, so this will be flush, and hopefully I'll have a perimeter of UHMW all the way around this thing, so it's like recessed up in there, and it's never going to contact anything. I mean, that's the goal anyway. I was thinking about modifying the rock grate too, and making it a little bit more fine, a little bit more rungs, because the Berkeley is a real crude rock grate. There's like 4 or 5 rungs or something like that in them. So I may do something with that too to try and keep some of the rocks out of the pump, because like with the other boat, I've had rocks come into the front side of this bowl and they get stuck in the vanes, and you can't get them out until you pull the bowl off. So if you could make the rock grate a little bit finer in between the runners, then it'll keep some of those rocks out of the bowl, hopefully. So yeah, I think we're gonna spray this pretty soon. The hull is gonna get sandblasted in the backyard here within the next week or so, and then that thing will be in here. We'll be able to start looking at it and what I got to do to it. So I think I'm gonna leave the intake bare. I think I'm gonna paint everything else, but I think I'm gonna leave this. Depends on how this is, if this is fastened to the boat. If it's glued in like they are originally in a glass boat, I don't want this thing to be painted, because it's going to have to be heated and melt all of that epoxy in order to get the thing back out of the boat. So it depends on how, again, like if there's, I use some kind of a gasket or silicone or something like this, then this could get painted and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I could probably still get it out. I want to be able to get this thing out without too much of a fight. So again, if like I mentioned in the previous video, if the hull doesn't work out, it'd be nice to be able to just reuse all of this instead of this all of a sudden becoming a permanent part of the structure of that boat that we don't know if it's going to be any good or not. So and I think that's about it for this chapter. Again, I should probably shut up before the stupid camera cuts out on me, but so yeah, next video, hopefully next time you see this pump, it'll have paint on it. We got some pretty high glossy urethanes that will look pretty good on this thing. So yeah, that should do it on this one. Again, thanks again for watching.